right, welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com, and thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Bishop Bowser, and we have an exciting show for you today, and I think and I believe and everyone should be listening. So right now, what I want you to do is to text or call, tweet, get it on Facebook, and let at least 7 people know that we are on, and tell them to tune into the show. Just go to www.kblkradio.com. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this morning, this is going to be a good one. We have Miss JoAnn Fields and Mr. Shaun Manning with us today, and we're going to be talking about back to school, learning and growing together. And if you want to call in and join the conversation, you can call in at 619-919-4745. Again, maybe you didn't have that pen or pencil in your hand, so I want to say it again very slowly. So write this down, 619-919-4745. That is to call in and join the conversation with us today, all right? Once again, 619-919-4745, okay? So now today I have a quote that I want to read to you, and you know, I always give my little commentary. And so, but today's quote is from Frederick Douglass, and Frederick Douglass said this, and I quote, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." Now, some may be saying, what was Douglass talking about, and what did he mean when he said that? Well, someone actually, broke it down for us, and Dr. Andrew Rowland, he explained this to us, and he said, and I quote, "Frederick Douglass was an African-American statesman who, having escaped from slavery, became a leader of the abolitionist movement and campaigned throughout his life for equality of all people, regardless of background, saying, 'I would unite with anybody to do right and with nobody to do wrong.' In 1855, Frederick Douglass had a series of dialogues with white slave owners who could not or would not comprehend that slavery was morally wrong, and it was during these communications that he wrote, 'It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men.' America's descendants of former slave owners and those whom have benefited from white privilege still don't comprehend the ills of slavery and how it affects blacks today. Under the guise of white privilege and systemic racism does this come. Now, when we talk about systemic racism occurs when the way a society is structured systematically ends up giving advantages to some and disadvantages to others. And it ties along the lines of structural racism, which is a system in which public policies, institutional practices, cultural representations, and other norms work in various, often reinforcing ways to perpetuate racial group inequity. It identifies dimensions of our history and culture that have allowed privileges associated with whiteness and the disadvantages associated with color to endure and adapt over time. Structural racism is not something that a few people or institutions choose to practice. Instead, it has been a feature of the social, economic, political systems in which we all exist. In many ways, when we look at structural racism and systemic racism, they are synonymous. If there is a difference between the terms, it can be said to exist in the fact that a structural racism analysis pays more attention to the historical, cultural, and social psychological aspects of our currently racialized society. Now, white privilege, or historically accumulated white privilege, as we have come to call it, refers to whites' historical and contemporary advantages in access to quality education, decent jobs, and livable wages, ownership, retirement benefits, wealth, and so on. The following quotation from a publication by Peggy McIntosh can be helpful in understanding what is meant by white privilege. And she says, "As a white person, I had been taught about racism that puts others at a disadvantage, but had been taught not to see one of its corollary aspects, white privilege, which puts me at an advantage. So then, a lot of times, even when we talk about white privilege and deals with discrimination and systemic racism and so on, we don't never look at the cultural representations. But cultural representations refer to popular stereotypes, images, frames, narratives that are socialized and reinforced by media. Oh, watch out, media. Language and other forms of mass communication and common sense, like Trump does the dog whistling. Cultural representations can be positive or negative, but from the perspective of the dismantling structural racism analysis, too often cultural representations depict people of color in ways that are dehumanizing, perpetuate inaccurate stereotypes, and have the overall effect of allowing unfair treatment within the society as a whole to seem fair or natural. Racial equity, because that's what we're trying to get to, right? Racial equity to what a genuinely non-racist society would look like. In a racially equitable society, the distribution of society's benefits and burdens would not be skewed by race. In other words, racial equity would be a reality in which a person is no more or less likely to experience society's benefits or burdens just because of the color of their skin. This is in contrast to the current state of affairs in which a person of color is more likely to live in poverty, be in prison, drop out of high school, be unemployed, and experience poor health outcomes like diabetes, heart disease, depression, and other potentially fatal diseases. Racial equity holds society to a higher standard. It demands that we pay attention to not just to individual level discrimination, but to overall social outcomes. And, one of the things that, when we look at our so-called community leaders today, I just, I have a lot of issues because on one end of it, they make it seem like they're for the people, but then on the other end, they're selling us out, and a lot of times we as a community and we as people of color just go for it. But I think, you saw how in the past month, a lot of folks are holding Murder Cole accountable, and rightly so. But I think we got to hold a lot of these so-called leaders accountable too, that are out there misleading us and endorsing and representing and speaking and defending people who are part of this system that is racist, and people who are part of the system, where you're talking about in politics, whether the mayor, city council, supervisor, or whoever they support these people, and these people don't make one or doesn't offer one solution to dismantle structural systemic racism. And we continue to support these people. They don't speak out about the criminal justice system. They don't speak out about the over-policing of our communities. They don't speak out about any of these things. I'm talking about these politicians, and then yet our leaders support these people. And so it's time to start holding folks accountable. And if we're going to do it to our politicians, let's do it to the so-called leaders, instead of always supporting them and rallying to them and running to everything that they want to have and letting them do this and do that. And, people will talk behind their backs but won't confront them in their face. So I say it's time to confront these folks and let them know that they're misrepresenting us as a community and as a people, and we will no longer tolerate that or allow them to do that. And so I get a lot of flack because I'm very outspoken. I'm a lovable guy, a kind guy, and I mean no harm, but you got to speak truth. And the Bible says speak truth in love, speaking truth in love. And so we speak truth in love because we love you, we care about you, and so on. But at the same time, don't get it twisted. We will hold you accountable, and we will speak out. Like John the Baptist, he spoke truth to power, told that politician, hey, it's not right for you to have your brother's wife. And so, we got to speak out too, and against the system because that's where you're going to change. You got to change policies if you're going to change situations and conditions. But as we talked about with racial equity, we got a long way to go because we're already lagging behind. We don't just want equality, but we want equity. Okay, to bring us up in part. And so right now, we got a couple more minutes left, but what I want to do before we go to our break, I want to just introduce our guest here this morning, and we want to get into, the back to school and growing, learning, and growing together, and talk about the school system and so on. So, with us today in our studio, we have Miss JoAnn Fields and Mr. Manning with us, Shaun Manning with us, and I want to welcome both of you all to the show.
Thank you for having us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us, Bishop.
Yes. Now, can you briefly just tell us what organization you with, JoAnn, and what organization you with, Shaun?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I am the chairperson for the Morris cluster. So that means there are 12 schools in total in the cluster, starting from kinder all the way up until you reach Morris 12th grade. Mm-hmm. So what we try to do is have a communications between the schools and the community, mm-hmm. so that we can work more closely together, because it goes hand in hand.
Right.
Our schools are in the community and things may come up, but we need a venue to share ideas, share any issues that they may have, and have a communications venue. So that's what the cluster does.
Okay. And Mr. Manning?
Yes, I'm CEO of Ground Up Youth Foundation, and we just we'll get into it a little bit more as the show goes on, but we have a moniker basically from nothing to something. And it's just bringing young men in and females as well, and just talk about where you are as a person, what you have, what your resources are. That's your foundation. That's where we start you at, and you can do nothing but go up from there.
All right. I like that. Now, okay, we're going to go ahead and take a break, but stay tuned because this is going to be an excellent show. And some schools have already started last week, especially college. And this week we got our young people that's getting ready to go back to school. We got parents, we got students, and teachers. So we got and a community that has to come together and help empower our youth that they get the proper education that they need. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
The best R&B plus weekend talk. KBLK San Diego.
Hello.
All right, welcome back to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com. And thank you for staying with us. And want to get back into talking with Ms. Fields and Mr. Manning on what's happening now. And, Ms. Fields, you were talking about you're the chairperson of Morris High School cluster. When you talk about cluster, what do we mean by that?
So there's a cluster of schools: Zamorano, Bell Middle School, Paradise Hills, Lee Elementary, Fulton K through 8. Mm-hmm. So again, there's a total of 12. Mm-hmm. So what we need communications between the schools, especially you might have, in my case, I have 4 kids. At one time, they were at 3 different schools.
Oh, gotcha.
And, well, I need to know what's going on over at Morris because my middle schooler is going to Morris, so right. I need to know what's going on campus. Mm-hmm. Or you might be a resident that says, hey, this traffic is an issue for me mm-hmm. when you guys have your football games, Morris High School, so where do I bring that complaint to? Well, then you can come over to the cluster and we can work it out. Because it is hard to navigate the school system, especially when you're in the community and mm-hmm. you don't have kids.
Right.
But again, the schools are in the community. We need to work things out sometimes and just share what's going on, whether it's an accomplishment or a complaint. Mm-hmm. We need a place for that, a venue to have that communication.
Wow, okay. And Mr. Manning, with when we're talking about the Ground Up Foundation and so on, so can you explain to us about when you talk about the Ground Up Foundation? A lot of times when you say foundation, you think you're just talking about like an organization that calls itself a foundation.
Right.
If you can break that down for us.
Well, we just feel like that if we have a place for people to be, and a lot of times there was a kid that I've helped who became a rapper, and one of his lines was, You put me in the ring. I didn't choose to fight.
Right.
So a lot of times we have kids that are just thrusted in a situation from parents or communities or just certain plights. And so we give them opportunity to see where they are. Truly pull them out of that and say, really, you didn't create that, and it's really not yours to own. What you need to own is your own responsibility, and take that, and we say that's your foundation. We all fall, as we spoke about earlier, so if they do fall and they've created some structure under them, then it's not as damaging to them, and they can just get back up and continue to rise.
Right. Okay. Now, Ms. Fields, what are schools offering our youth this year to make schools more exciting than last year?
Well, at 5 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, I'm going through my Facebook because that's what my daily routine is, and I saw Our Students Matter challenge from my friend Tia Turner.
Okay.
And as you know, I like to promote what's positive in the community. So click, share the post, let the community know. Then I'm thinking, wait a minute, how am I promoting something at Lincoln, and I'm the chair of Morris cluster. So I need to step up to the challenge. So it snowballed from there. And I think that's what is exciting for the start of the school year. I connected with people in my network and asked them, would you take the challenge with me, Our Students Matter challenge, and come welcome our kids for only 30 minutes of your time on Monday morning. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock, we'll be at several different schools, and we are just going to welcome our students and parents back. And I think that is an exciting start for our kids, that they see that our community and that our community leaders, parents, and residents are welcoming our kids back to school and will be there for them. This is not just a one-shot deal. This is not just a one-time event. From that, there's been conversations now to ask, what else can we do? So now we're able to engage other programs and services that are out there. So, for instance, with Ground Up, they've been doing work at different schools and with student athletes, but not necessarily knowing what Blue Heart Foundation or Pat on the Back Youth Foundation does. So now we're able to network and share what do we have out there, and let's get that duplicated at other schools, because we know that it can't be just one person or one organization doing everything, but now we have a whole network. And the challenge was initiated by the Lincoln High School PTO, which Tia Turner.
What's PTO?
PTO is Parent Teacher Organization, so it's like the PTA, but not association, but organization. And Tia is a part of that, and she's a very good friend that I trust in the community.
And she's with the Lincoln cluster?
Yeah, she's with the Lincoln PTO.
Okay.
The Lincoln High School PTO. She's also alumni of the school, so that's what initiated it. But now, again, it has snowballed, and I didn't know the organizers of the PTO until now. So now we're able to have a conversation, and first it was friendly challenge, but now again we're able to connect and get people at the schools. I just got a text from Dadisi Franklin, who's the basketball coach at Cali Kings, of Cali Kings, and he goes, "Hey, I want to go to Lincoln." And then I saw Dr. Bob Matthews at Morris High School yesterday. He goes, "Oh, I'm going to go to Fulton, K8, which is next door." And he's building a team. Rakina Mills, community leader, Coca-Cola. "Hey, I'm going to go to Fulton, and I'm going to decorate our area." I'm like, wait a minute, you going to decorate with what? So it's just igniting this conversation and connectedness now with people that probably wouldn't have talked across the board. So I think it's really exciting, and I've seen this on Facebook on the East Coast and the Midwest, and so we're now the West Coast version of that.
Now, at what schools are you going to be having Our Student Matter challenge?
So what I do know, we are, of course, we're going to be at Morris and Lincoln, but Knox, Millennial Tech Middle School. We will also be at Fulton K through 8, Bell Middle School, I heard Porter is now also on board, Balboa Elementary, and there may be one more school, but it's just grown. First it started Lincoln, then Morse, and then Knox. I believe Knox was already on board with MTM at Lincoln, and then Fulton naturally is next door to Morse, so we had to go ahead and go there. So we have K through 12 covered, and of course Bell Middle School. So we would love to cover every school, but again, this started at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, and it's only Sunday. So can you imagine what this can grow to by next year?
Right.
We can cover every school in the district if we like.
Right.
You know, but we have to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate the Lincoln PTO for initiating the challenge, but more importantly, I appreciate everybody that has come on board, because our students truly matter, and it doesn't take money to get things started.
Right.
It's just your time.
Right. Now, Mr. Manning, with the Ground Up Foundation, what role do you see your group playing with our Student Matters?
Well, usually when I'm mentoring young men, I always have them mentoring someone so I can make sure that they really understand what I'm attempting to do.
Good.
And a lot of times in just the attempt, there should be joy and connection. Whether we're successful all the way or not, just the time you spend with them and the opportunity that you give them to get better and highlight themselves is the thing. So we're going to have some young men in college come out and support the effort and let them know education is important, as they're still working on their education 15, 10, 12 years older.
Right.
So it really doesn't stop.
Right.
And the main thing for me, education and youth, the key word for us is value.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
a lot of times this value is placed outside of us, but we have a very strong value that we need to place upon ourselves by the way we act, the foods we eat, the way we speak to one another, and how we treat each other. So basically, we're just going to try to come add to the value of the challenge.
And what schools are you going? Are you going to be at all these different schools, or?
Well, it's only 30 minutes, so it'd be hard to go around. So we're going to try to spread young men up. A lot of them are from other places.
Okay.
So we have to put them in the community where they're comfortable, or there's some type of connection, whether they played basketball on that campus, or met someone down the line that attended those schools, or just want to know the history of it, because we do have a lot of history in our schools here in San Diego.
Right. And, this question is for either of you. Why is this important? Why is this important? Why do you, to do this, our Student Matter Challenge, why is this important? Why do you think this needs to be done?
I mean, it's a chance for us to feel youthful again, because I remember my lunch pail and putting on my best outfit.
Back to school.
Right. And the joy in that. And so just to see these kids' faces and the adrenaline that they have, because they do understand why they're going to school.
Right.
And so when they get there and they have people greeting them and saying, this is important, you're important, and let's see what you can make of it. I think if we can keep the theme going, as Ms. Fields said, all the way, not just one session of this, but school when it's active, and then at the end. And so one thing that we're big on is making sure someone has to represent when they graduate. You want to dress up, you want to make it festive, so they want to keep repeating these efforts and these results, so down the line there's that value again.
Wow. So, when we look at this and we want our students to be successful, a lot of times they face a lot of obstacles. And what do you think are some of the biggest challenges our youth are facing this school year?
I think we need to get our kids more mentally prepared and sound. And mentally, I just mean that sometimes they're coming from a household that may have some challenges, or it's not that traditional family lifestyle. One of the kids that we work with since he was 8, he's now 13. He has a lot of anger issues because he wants to go home to mom and dad with all his brothers and sisters, but that's not the case. He can't stay with his parents. They're not together. Mom lost custody of the kids, so they're split in different households. But when you don't understand where he's coming from, and the anger comes out in different behaviors at school, I think that's something that needs to be addressed, that there needs to be some supports. So how do you get a student to focus on getting straight A's when they have other behavioral issues that are stemming from something at home. And that's a conversation that we've been bringing to the superintendent, along with the principals. The principals understand, but we know that the support system has to come from within the district. So that's why I do miss board member Marnie Foster, because she was that conduit for us. So that, but not every kid is angry, but we know that the kids that are on track, they're on track.
What about school? Who's the school board?
Member currently is Sharon Whitehurst Payne. She's fulfilling the last of
that's right, they have elections,
Marnie's position. So Sharon Whitehurst Payne, but there is an election. That's why this election season is important. Make sure we register to vote, because on November 8th we will be voting the next representative, whether it is Sharon Whitehurst Payne or Lachey Collins. So they're the two that are in the finals, if you will, on November 8th. So again, that's going to go into another tangent. While we are all here saying our students matter, well, that also translate. We need to go out and vote.
Right.
And again, that doesn't cost any money. You can even register online, and then vote by mail. November 8th is the deadline. The ballots are open. I think they said it was October 10 is early voting. So you can vote as early as that. It's over 1 month to make your choice. And so I won't go. That's another talk show, but it's all connected. It's all connected.
Absolutely. And when you talk about that, where can people go to find out about these candidates?
SDvote.com has all the candidates listed on the ballot, and also their campaign websites or contact information. So that's on the county Register of Voters website, SDvote.com. So that we can get the word out and make an informed decision. I'm not trying to say go here or go there, but I do, I have strong opinions on politics, but I prefer that people can make an informed decision.
Right.
You choose who will represent your kids and your family, but you need to participate. So let's talk about that on another, because we can take that as another. But I appreciate you bringing that up, because it is very important. Because who we elect can either make or break the system, and we can make changes with the right representative. Right.
Especially if you need that support. So talking about our Student Matter Challenge. Give us the specific times that you need people and where you need them and so on, so we can make sure.
So we have a Facebook page. That's generally how we have been promoting what schools will be at. If you have room on your website at kblkradio.com, if we can post that on your website, and that's where people can also look at the schools. But we start at 7 o'clock. So everybody, please remember, we can't just show up at 7:10, or right at 7. We got to get there a little early so we can find parking. I'm really trying to encourage people, don't park on campus. Because you already know it's first day of school. Everybody's going to be going to school the first day. So with that said, just be mindful that the traffic is going to start flowing. So come at least 15-20 minutes earlier to find parking. Like in the case of Morris, I'm asking our participants to park on the north side of Skyline. Carpool if you can. I appreciate Pastor Brooks, our senior pastor at Bayview. He put the challenge out to his congregation online, and I know during service today he'll put it out. So I'm asking congregation, maybe carpool from Bayview Church and then get 4 or 5 people in your car and then park across the street and then walk together. So we have people that are donating cases of water. According to the weather, it's supposed to be hot that day, so we're going to try to give out as many water bottles as we can so the students can stay hydrated. But again, for any of the campuses, whether it's Morris, whether it's Lincoln has 4 gates that they're assembling at, because 4 different entrances. I know off 47th, off Imperial, so you need to coordinate there. But again, come at least 15-20 minutes early so you can meet who's organizing with
Right.
you, but also to make sure that you're not caught in the traffic yourself.
So what are some of the goals you want to reach?
So the number one goal is to make sure that our students really see the community welcome, giving them a warm welcome back to school. They need to see us. So that's a positive message that we're sending out to our kids and their parents. So that they feel welcome on the campus. But number two is to connect organizations that may not have worked with before.
Right.
And then let's keep the network growing. Let's keep the movement moving after this. This shouldn't just stop after 7:30. We'll stop that activity at 7:30 because we said we only need 30 minutes of your time, but let's have a conversation after this. What else can we do? We're not trying to set an agenda for anybody. Set your own agenda of what you think is needed at Lincoln. We'll talk about it at the Morris Cluster meetings, which is on the third Wednesday of every month at Bell Middle School. But now we're able to share and connect, and all for our students, because our students matter.
Right. And Mr. Manny, you know, how did you get connected with this, and why is it important for your organization to be a part of this?
I just think the youth in general is very high interest of ours, and we stay in that realm of just helping the youth out and not fluctuating as things go around, and our topics in the community change and our emphasis change, and it's usually not us, it's people from the outside of the community. So we just decided to stay in that foundation. And so pulling all those things together from our youth, the educational piece, and then we start getting into politics. Just from a spiritual standpoint, the word tells us that you hold on to things that are forever. And so we get education, we keep that forever.
Amen.
Our communication can be forever. And then when these people hold these seats, these politicians, the damage or the good that they do is forever. And so that's what we want to do, and really just the youth is just our joy. And if you can't find youth in our joy, it's going to be a long road ahead of you to find joy within yourself, anything. And also, just the last thing, if you're not giving back to anyone or helping anyone else in life, do you have a real purpose? At all. And so just, you know, really just to see the youthful faces that we're going to have, the joy in education. They know why they're marching in there. You're going for your friends, but your parents are letting you know you're going to listen to the teacher, you're going to pay attention, you're going to be good in recess, and you're going to do good in school. So they have a theme and a purpose of why they're going. And
so, you know, and that's important because when you talk about listen to the teacher and so on, what do you think are some of the greatest distractions for our youth, and how can we keep them focused?
Well, let me say something from a historical standpoint. We need to understand that education has not just been lacking for blacks. It's been a problem in education in U.S. history for a very long time, and I don't think a lot of people know that. So, like you just said, tying in where we get information and who we communicate from, we need to pay very close attention to who's educating our kids and how they're educating them. And I've helped so many students understand that if the school immediately in your district cannot educate your kid properly, then the state has to pay for these resources. So we need to get this information out, and we all need to be taught, and we all learn differently. So when we talk about special education and things like that, it seems to be a negative. But it's really not. It just means you're that special that someone needs to help you learn a different or better or separate way than others. So that's what it needs. There's no foolproof idea or example of what to do. It's ongoing. Education has to be ongoing, has to be evolving. And some of our best teachers, we know, they put so many activities in our classrooms and challenges different ways that really didn't have anything to do with the subject, but it was about connecting, learning, and how to learn with each other and how to interact with each other.
Wow. So this is for both of you all. What are the best ways for parents to keep a pulse on their children's schoolwork? Because, you know, that's going to be important. And as you're talking, whether, you know, they're in special classes or whatever, and we can talk about that in a moment. But, you know, what do you think about that?
Well, we have technology, and we have communication that can come so quickly. With the principals that I work with, I actually have their cell phone numbers. They might not do that for all 1,000 kids. However, you can get a phone number of the parent liaison or the counselor. Just showing presence. if you don't have time to go onto the campus,
Right.
I know at Morris High School the program is called Power School, so you can monitor your student online via your email.
Right.
They'll tell. I was getting emails of a student that I had guardianship over that. He's absent today at just this one class. Where were you? Well, how do you know? Who told you? Doesn't matter. I know. So you need to be in class, right? So that kind of information. But really, as a parent or guardian or advocate, just showing up on campus even once a month. Once in the morning
will make a difference.
Will make a major difference, because I can tell you for that one student, whenever I came on campus, oh, he's in the library. Oh, he's over. I didn't even ask. I'm not even here looking for him. I'm about to meet with Mr. Shelton. But they already know I'm a concerned person for the student. So just that your presence, you'll get information.
Right.
But we need to use technology to our fullest. I know the principal at Nye Elementary, they told me that they do alerts on text.
Oh, okay.
So if you're absent, you're going to get a text. So they can't intercept that voicemail on your home phone, if you have a home phone nowadays. But students can't intercept that now. So we need to use technology as a tool for us to monitor our kids, but also to appreciate what's going on campus.
Absolutely. Ms. Matt, you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would like to say the communication part is important. And if you don't have the communication, like she's saying there, then let's go find a way to place it there so the communication is there. When we were at Morris a couple years ago, their communication link for parents and students for grades online was down.
Okay.
It affected a lot. But they put a lot of money in there and got it back up, and then now parents can be students along with their children now because you're online with the teacher communicating. They can't lie. So just a little bit of time for you to be a student with your student, okay, and act like you're in the classroom with them and stay on top of their subjects and all that kind of stuff. If we let it go too far, it becomes a negative, and they get nervous, and they do want to please us.
Right.
So then they try to go the other route. But from me, I'm an old school, simple guy, and I just go all the way back to my roots. And everyone needs to know. Parents, you need to know, if you don't know, that education starts at home.
Amen.
You can't just put your kids on campus and think they're going to be educated. So you have to have updates and check-in points and communication with your own child about what are you learning, what's your homework, and then setting up schedules and times, consistent schedules and time to keep the consistency in the education. Okay, so that's really about it. What it is for me, just staying on top of it, the importance, highlighting when they do good and when they don't do good. Let's find out why you're not good. Is it the amount of time you spent or lack of the time that you should have spent on that, or did you not get what the teacher's saying? A lot of times, like Ms. Phil said, if you go in there and have one meeting and your kid's always going to be like, I tell kids all the time, they say, look, this teacher is stupid. This teacher is this and that. And I'm like, if they're that stupid, trick them into getting you an A. Right. And so we want the same communication with the parents to understand. If you go sit in there with that teacher one time, you can see maybe sometime we do have character flaws or communication issues, and it ties right in, and then the rest of it is beautiful.
Right. Now, how can? What is the best way for a parent to reach the teachers? Because I heard you, Ms. Fields, talk about email, text, and so on. What is the best way?
Those are a couple of ways. Of course, we have our cluster meetings. That's why we have meetings after hours. Our meetings usually start 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30, so that maybe you are working during the day. We're going to try to be there in the evening. Because of what's going on with our Students Matter, we're trying to get into back into the Saturday school. So we're going to be available to you maybe on the first Saturday of the month, so that we can be there to answer questions or help be your advocate. But also to bring mentors onto the campus like Shaun or Dr. Vanjie Akridge, who came onto campus with us a couple years back. And kids were telling us, you know what, I want to go to college, but my school counselor said I'm not going to make it. What are you talking about? Wait, we need to address that. How are they making that judgment call when everyone has that option? So let's talk about that. So You can do this online, a simple phone call, going to a Morris or a Lincoln cluster meeting or your school cluster meeting. There's the PTA, PTO. I know the principals make themselves available with the principal, coffee with the principal. So there's different ways to connect.
Right.
And then if you really have to, you can go on Tuesday nights at the school board meeting.
Okay.
That's how, if we can't get any results on campus, we go to the school board meeting and let the board member know, hey, your staff isn't coming through, or your staff is doing this, and they really don't want to hear that because it's videotaped and it's going to be online forever. It's archived. So if you want to put them on blast, we can put them on blast, but we shouldn't think about it as a negative. But you know, sometimes you have to go there. And we go to the school board meeting and say, hey, I want to be involved in my student's life, so we need your help.
Right.
And then you can make change there.
Right. Now, what kind of support are you all receiving from the school officials?
From the school officials?
On down.
So I've noticed Cindy Martin is actually on my Facebook page, so she's liked it. I haven't called her. I'll probably call her after the radio show.
Reached out to you?
She hasn't reached out to me directly, but I know she's watching our pages. I did get phone calls, and I have open communication with our principals at the school. I'm talking with our interim Emmett Dodd at Fulton. I already had meetings, and actually Mr. Shelton recorded a video inviting the community to the campus. Precious. So we have to have that communication. But as far as administrators, again, it happened only Wednesday morning and it's Sunday, so I'll probably get phone calls now that you've asked, but I appreciate you asking, because they should have a pulse on what's going on campus. And I talked to the officers yesterday during Barry Pollard's bike rodeo, and two of the officers that are on campus, one is the regional officer, I want to say Ivan is his name, and so they know. So I'll be calling Chief Littlejohn to make sure all the San Diego unified officers know what we're going
now, let me ask
to
you
do.
Something in regards, like I know at Lincoln, but do they have school police on?
Yeah, on every
campuses,
campus.
all the campuses.
Yes, on every campus there's police officers. So I did share with them that we have this activity, so don't be surprised if you see extra 50, 100 people on campus welcoming the kids. We do have a concern of traffic, so again, that's why we want to encourage people to come early and get assembled before the regular school traffic starts. But we are in communication with San Diego Unified Police.
And with such a short time, are you getting any response from parents? Because I know parents they can't. I mean, we are a community, but parents got to play a leading role in this.
Yes. So again, because it was last minute, but there are robocalls that are going out for the welcome. So speaking with Emmett Dodd at Fulton, I know they have something going out today. I spoke to Joyce Arona, who coordinates that for more. So there is the word going out to parents.
Okay.
But again, we had a short turnaround, but this will just, this is what didn't work this year, or we could have done better this year, but definitely for next year, we'll have this A to Z planned out.
Right. So now I want to ask a question for both of you guys, because this is a big issue in the schools. Is what does how does the school deal with cyberbullying? Because I know a lot of that's been a big thing. You hear about cyberbullying a lot. Are any of you all involved with schools in regards to cyberbullying, or your students and kids that you work with? Have they been affected by that, and what is being done to prevent it and intervene? Mr. Manning.
Yeah, I can take that. I mean, for me, it's a catch-22. I really didn't get directly involved in it because it's an issue. That's just a label that they gave it, to cyberbullying and all the other stuff. But really, me growing up, it's not the intense part we have to deal with it when it comes physical or emotionally damaging to a student. But I just feel like that's really what helped us define us growing up, when people did tell you that your ears were a little bigger than everybody else's and just the way you dress, but it made you dress better later on. I think it helps define self-esteem and things like that, unless it's just too damaging or people feel threatened or it affects them emotionally. So I really don't get into it. I just think it's a way to help our own students. What we do is help raise their self-esteem, and usually the things that people try to defy you with are things that become what you make a living at, or things that you become great at if you embrace it. But the first thing is truth. How true is it? And if it's true, and you go look in the mirror and talk about how you look, can you accept it? Because we have to go back to the spiritual side of how God made us and loving who we are from day one.
That's true. Now,
I'd like to bounce off that. On the cyberbullying, we actually had a case at Bell Middle School where girls were going at it over a guy, and then they actually posted a video that they got into a fight in the hallway at Plaza Bonita Mall. It wasn't just no 1-2 knockout. They were going at it. So they talk about snitches and all that, but I had to pull them out because there are kids, and there's now the fear of retaliation, and you put them on blast on social media, so you can't do me that way. So we had to pull them out, talk to them with the counselors and secure the police at Bell, the teachers, because we cannot let that continue. And if we see something, we need to address it. And I think that's what a lot of people in our community just want to just turn their head and make like they didn't see anything, because it is a hard issue to address. But we as parents, as even friends, I went on Facebook to spy on my kids. I wanted to see, because it was only for kids in the beginning, right? Then I started getting invites from friends from back in the day, whatever. So now I use it for marketing. But when I first started, it was to spy on my kids. Oh, you want to go egging on Halloween? No, you gonna stay home now. Like, how did mom know? Because I'm watching you, right? Exactly. But we have we as an adult and as a community need to be responsible also, and have those hard conversations. But we do need to address that, and I know they talk about that at school also.
Yeah, to tie into that, what about the violence and gang conflicts like the one in Lincoln, and are you guys prepared for those type of things this year? And also, parents have beefs a lot of times.
Ooh, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so let's talk about that.
Well, that's a very touchy subject there, but I think in a lot of those cases, there's no true separation from parent to child, meaning from a maturity standpoint, and they're doing what they're learned. Like we said, education starts at home. And so I think in that, first to address on the campuses, I just think it's in the air now with all the differences just in the world. When we grew up, there was a time when presidents couldn't be talked about. The Secret Service would show up at their house 10 minutes later if you said anything negative. And so when we talk about gangbanging and violence and derogatory things, look at what we're doing now with our presidential race. It's not even about
that's gangbanging.
Exactly, at the highest level with the highest media attention and resource in the media, and millions of dollars being spent to say something negative about another candidate rather than talk about the positive and the change you're going to make in America today. In different communities. So I just think it's so visible because we talk about cyber in general and the media in general that they learn it naturally. And so now
children are watching.
And our young kids at 3 and 4 year old, if we really start speaking to them in the stomach and coming out with the positives and half filled rather than half empty, I think a lot of that can be deterred. But a lot of it has the idle time that they have, and they start grouping together and promoting this versus promoting that, and that's where controversy comes from. But I think it's in place on schools, and I think the incident on Lincoln was really something that started out very casual and fun and escalated into something that got back into
like you said, our kids can't have fun. They can't be kids.
And then originally you talked about labeling and stereotypes, and that's not really racial, but it gets that way when it becomes police and students in general.
JoAnn, you want to add anything to that?
Well, I want to just reiterate that's why it is important for us to be involved. we can't address all the issues by one person or one organization. So I appreciate the work that you did, Tasha Williams, Williamson on campus, school police having a dialogue and trying to get the story out, because the media will take a sound bite.
Right.
And take it somewhere else where it didn't even originate.
Right.
But if we have the platforms like the PTO, like the clusters, so we can have these conversations, then we can really get to the root of what really went on. And then impose the positivity that can come out of something that was negative. It doesn't have to stay negative. We can create something better out of it. And sometimes bad things have to happen for something good to come out. So, but that's another topic of discussion that could get us another hour. But I do appreciate having this opportunity on your show to talk about the different range of things we can do for our kids. But again, it's not just a one-time shot tomorrow at 7:00. It needs to be ongoing.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things would be great is, when they have the Christmas break and spring breaks and things like that should be in place to do these type of things during that. Of course, it should be every day going on, and parents and community folks walking to campus and really supporting our youth. And I think if they have the support they need and the guidance that they need, the love and support, I think that would keep and prevent a lot of things from happening on the campus and keep them in a positive environment and so on. Before we close, you guys have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, that the Ground Up Youth Foundation, in honor of the late Jill Hooper, going back to what we were talking about, we're going to do some civic engagement with some youth to understand how to pick candidates and what the process should be and who should be filling our seats in these positions that will help the community. So I just wanted to add that, and you can reach us on Facebook, Ground Up on Facebook, and anybody want to do some collaboratives regarding that.
Absolutely.
I think it's important. And I want to say thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being on. Thank you for being on. All right. We thank both of you for being on the show, Mr. Manning, Ms. Fields, and look forward to continue having this discussion because it's an ongoing discussion.
Yes, indeed.
And want to thank all our listeners for tuning in to what's happening now on KBLKradio.com, and we encourage you to tune back in next Sunday at 9:00 a.m. God bless you, and we look forward to having more discussion with you next week.